SteveBarker from Raw Leadership coming to share with you another insight around leadership, human behavior, and how that impacts not just ourselves as leaders, but our teams and the ripple effects that has beyond that. So, what I wanted to jump on today and start to share with you and unpack with you is a principle around the ego. Now, as a human being, we all have an ego. And a lot of people, when I've shared this before, they talk about an ego being sort of like the side that's all about me. It's all about what I think is important. And to a certain extent, that's correct. One of the perspectives that I like to look at the ego through is that the ego is there as a protectorate, that it's there to take care of us, to keep us safe. It's almost like it's a little suit of armor that we put on when we don't think that we are feeling very safe. Now, in the modern day world, this can be a reaction to criticism. This could be a reaction to being blamed for something. This could be a reaction to us thinking that we are not good enough. Now, in its origins, the ego was around when we were chasing saber-toothed tigers. We were out hunting, and the saber-toothed tiger was looking out for us because we were as much hunting it as it was hunting us. And we knew that, and we needed to be able to respond, react like that, super fast to any danger that we had around us. Now, in the modern day world, there aren't many saber-toothed tigers out there that are going to kill us and devour us. But we still have this acute reaction that can happen in a fraction of a second. And like I say, it often comes out when we aren't feeling safe. Now, when we start to look at the ego and we start to unpack it, and I do a whole framework around this, a whole module around the ego, being able to recognize it, being able to understand it. But as a leader, if we can understand when somebody is having an ego-based response. Now, the ego needs to know 6 things for us to be able to stay alive. Things like the need to look good, the need to fit in, the need to judge, the need to be right. Those are just some of those things. The need to justify is another good one. So, as a leader, whenever I'm seeing this happening, sometimes even in myself, but whenever I see this happening in other people, where they're justifying or they're judging or they need to be right or they need to look good or they need to fit in, and I'm seeing this on a consistent basis over a short period of time, I conclude to myself that that person is not feeling safe. Now, why is this important as a leader? Well, when we feel safe, when we feel that we are safe, we are cared for, we are being protected, somebody has our back, we can be more productive. We also recognize that when we're feeling safe, we've become a little bit more adventurous and we start to think outside the box. We start to try new ways, new ideas, new strategies. We're more open to receiving feedback. And this is one of the concepts behind knowing about the ego with regard to a leader. If as a leader, we can recognize when our team, when the people around us are not feeling safe, then we can ask ourselves, how do I create an even safer environment for them? And what this enables us to do is also to start to develop and create a no blame culture, a no stupid question culture, where people feel that they can have a go at things, where they're not going to get thrown under the bus, where they're not going to get ripped a new one. But even more than this, what we start to see then is once we've got this culture where people feel safe, they're more likely to raise their hand and go, hey Steve, I think I messed things up. I think I stuffed this up. And what we can start to see is then that rather than sweeping it under the carpet, the problem gets addressed there and then. So the problem is only, where am I going with my little hands? The problem's only this big. It's only a small problem. Rather than people sweeping it under the carpet, not talking about it, not bringing it out into the open before it becomes bigger than Ben-Hur and something that causes us a real drama, a real problem. You know, when we've got these big problems, it also impacts on finances, it impacts on output, it impacts on so many different things. Wouldn't it be better if we had a team that felt safe enough to be able to put their hand on and go, hey Steve, I think I stuffed that up? Or even me as a leader going, hey guys, My bad, I stuffed this one up. But rather than go into that blame game and performance improvement plans and all the rest of the stuff that goes on, how about we just go, okay, that's fine. Because 9 times out of 10 people are not sabotaging, they're not deliberately messing something up. But we go, okay, that's cool. Thanks very much for bringing that to my attention. How do we fix it? How do we get from here and get to here? How do we make sure that this doesn't happen again and we bring more curiosity? So when I talk about the ego, what we're doing is we're using a framework, a filter to be able to understand when our team are not feeling safe. And therefore they're not going to be at their most productive. And also they're more likely to not own up to mistakes and sweep things under the carpet, so that the problem goes from being this big to being this big really quite quickly. So when again we understand these frameworks, when we understand these patterns, universal patterns of human behavior, as a leader, that puts us 3 or 4 steps in front of people. We don't want to be a million miles in front of people, but we want to be 2 or 3 steps in front so that we can lead, so that we can take the direction. But also, and I've mentioned this before, leadership is like a dance. We need to be 2 steps in front, 2 steps by the side, so that we can connect with our team and hear what's going on, so that they get to know us as much as we get to know them. And then 2 steps behind, so that we can encourage those who are struggling along behind. And then 2 steps in front. It's very dynamic being a leader. But if we can understand these patterns of human behavior, these frameworks, then we're better positioned. It reduces the amount of stress. It reduces the amount of hard work and anxiety it is being a leader. So I've written 27 different frameworks, different models of human behavior. They're all fact-based, evidence-based models, and I present them in a way that makes it easy to understand. So if you're interested in learning more about the ego, or you're more interested in how do you become a more effective leader, hit me up. Let's have a chat. I love sharing these sort of insights. All right, but for now, I'm going to say cheerio, because I know that I've done 7 minutes. I try to keep these to about 5 minutes, so I've rattled on a little bit. All right, until we catch up again, stay safe, and I look forward to sharing more insights with you very, very soon. Toodaloo.